Hello and happy Thursday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. And we are back with our regularly scheduled programming. Obviously, thank you guys who did tune in last week just to watch us blow off some steam, play some video games with some friends, and just have a good time. I feel like with horse racing, and especially with us, I feel like we're tuned in 24/7. Every single week, every single big day. I mean, we are constantly grinding. So every once in a while, it's nice to take a little break and do something fun. But speaking of just, I mean, when I think of fun, I think of one man and one man only. It's Mr.
I knew I was
Marquette.
getting called there, and I was like, is it really going there? Like, you can't think of any better opener than that.
Oh, Mark. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Good. Played a little, tried to hit the Keeneland pick six last 2 days, failed miserably. I am very happy that meet is almost over because it has been a brutal one. I keep telling myself every year I'm just not going to play the Keeneland spring meet, and then I play the Keeneland spring meet anyways, and then I write down in my notes, never play the Keeneland spring meet again, to which I then play it again the next year, which just is the way, right?
Yeah, it's funny, right? Like we always look forward to the Keeneland spring meet. We're just like, it's gonna be different this time. It's gonna be different this time, and it never is. It never is. And what's funny is I was totally not going to play the pick six carryover today, but my lovely podcast co-host Andrew Champagne did remind me that the biggest score I've ever had was on our show. I gave out the pick six for a carryover, and he's like, you got to play it. And I think I started 0 for 4 on that pick six. So
I only missed the first 2 legs where I got a little cue. It was pretty logical sequence. But honestly, I know Caleb was saying he thought it paid out well, but I didn't think it paid that crazy well considering. Honestly, I think one of the hardest things for somebody who enjoys horse racing is the money at Keeneland is very sharp. The public money is very, very sharp. So it's hard to find value there. And I think you see that with things like what those pick six payouts were today.
Yeah. Well, we'll bring in Mr. Caleb here. It just seems like there was an absolute, just crazy amount of just like smart money today, or just bad morning line. I mean, I couldn't tell. I know the winner of was it the first race that went off 9-5, or the second race that went off 9-5? One of them. I was not into it all whatsoever. I think you had it, Caleb, but you were also like 4 wide, and I think both those legs. So
yeah, it was a difficult day, I think, and I think you're right in the sense of it was maybe a combination of just sharp money as well as some lines that were questionable. I wouldn't have made like leg one. You had Berlin, the 8-horse, wins it. I think he was 6-5, 9-5 or 6-5. Yeah. I wouldn't have made him that either. I like the horse, but there's no way I expect him to be 6-5. But I also think, by a similar notion, that the horse that he did have as the favorite, the number 5, Frosted Diamond at 8-5, 1 for 20 lifetime Delta Downs shipper. I think that's a pretty bad miss. So that money had to go somewhere. I just didn't expect it all to go onto the 8. But yeah, when you look at the prices that came in, I mean, there was one horse that I thought was somewhat of an overlay, and the rest I thought were all, morning line favorite or post time favorite, all in that ballpark of like 5-2 or less, 2-1, 3-1. So I thought it paid reasonable for what came in. Just kind of overthought a couple legs.
Yeah, this is always a tough time with horse racing. And I think we even talked about it a little bit a little bit off stream, like we were talking about, what we're going to do this week, and and we'll see some of it. I think when we look at this Churchill Downs opening card, like once that last week, I mean, Keeneland I think keeps carding good races up until they close because they're such a short meet. But Mark and I both we have to stop playing Keeneland, otherwise we're gonna end up, and I don't know, we're gonna assisted living or poorhouse, I don't know, government housing, I don't know, but it's just like there's just like nothing to really get excited for until Derby, and obviously Derby week, Friday, Saturday are really good. You get all these other tracks opening, and then bam, you hit the summer, and you start getting like even the week after the Derby. I think traditionally Belmont has they run the Man of War, which I think is a grade one, and they you start getting good turf racing, good other racing, everything kind of ball rolling. But outside of these big Derby prep days, I do think that this like part of the year is just really, really tough to get excited for. And I think what's also just kind of makes everything else a little bit more difficult is I think this year there's just not as much excitement in general, I think, for the Derby. I mean, Mark, do you feel that way?
Yeah, I think so. But I think it's, you have normally in these Derby years, there's a real superstar standout, super impressive horse that's got this just unblemished resume, or sometimes a couple of those, and then you have kind of the new shooters that are up and coming. And I think when you look at this year's Derby crop, there's two real standouts, and then there's everybody else, and the difference between the two standouts and everybody else is pretty massive. And I think you can make cases against both of those superstars. So it's a weird year where I mean, Chad Brown or Todd Pletcher winning a Derby isn't as exciting. There isn't that cool underdog story. I think a lot of the prep races looked like they had some chance for some interesting new faces, and we just never really saw them. And it just feels like one of those kind of. It reminds me, and I know it's before your time, Josh, the year that Orb won the Derby. That was another one of these years where if Orb ran into even a mediocre Derby class, he finishes fifth or something. But he caught a soft field, Eric's caught a soft year, and he kind of ground his way there, and he was good enough. But nobody got excited about Orb. Orb was not an exciting horse. He just was just good, the best of what was there. And I think that's what it feels like this year. There's no horse that I am like super excited to run to the window to bet, or some horse that there's a real cool story, or there's a ton of upside, or I love this certain price. It's just like, okay, I think you're going to have two short price favorites. They both make some sense. And then there's everybody else.
What about you, Caleb? You kind of feel the same way?
In general, yeah. I do think I probably wouldn't go as far to say it's a hard time to be excited about racing. I think it's a hard day to have a Thursday night stream 10 days out from the Derby and not talk about the Derby. So I think talking about the races this weekend, yeah, that's very difficult.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a bad time to be in racing. I mean, all the preps are done. People are trying to get their Derby horse and watching. Everyone becomes a morning workout expert now for the next 1 week. So, yeah, I think it's an exciting time. But I will say that to me, the Derby feels like it's perhaps a little bit light on star power compared to other years that we've seen. And I think we might just need to address the elephant in the room here. It's kind of felt that way ever since a certain trainer has been excluded from the Derby. Whether that's right, wrong, or otherwise, I don't know, nor do I really care. But it's definitely felt that it's missing some of those big names that you look for. And I said this last year. That's part of the reason I was so high on Dermot Sotogake last year was, A, I really liked his race, but B, I wasn't super enamored with Forte or Angel of Empire or Mage or the other horses in there that were likely to attract some money. So I kind of went for the outsider. I'm not going to make that mistake again this year, even though I feel the same way. So yeah, I am excited about the race. It's always a good day. But yeah, there isn't one horse I'm just dying to bet or that I think I'm going to get some great price on this horse no one's talking about. I think I see the race similar to how most people do, and that it's a little bit top heavy. And if you get past the top two, you can almost go as deep as you want.
Yeah, I honestly don't have like a real strong opinion going into the Derby. Obviously, what's kind of cool is they're drawing it, I think, earlier than they normally do. They're drawing it on Saturday, So we're gonna get a full week of being able to get this through. So during this card, we are going to talk about the Churchill Downs opening card. I think it's like between like races like 4 and 5. They're gonna draw the Derby. So we're gonna get some PPs pretty early. It's gonna be yeah, I think it's gonna be good. We'll get some we'll get a lot of time with these cards, and really get to dive in. I'll be at a work conference next week, so this is gonna be really it's gonna be interesting this year because I'm gonna be at a work conference and I'm driving straight to Louisville after this work conference. So plan for next week is Thursday, Friday, to knock out our 2 streams. Obviously, Thursday we'll do we'll talk about Oaks Day, and then Friday we'll recap Oaks and talk Derby. So yeah, we'll have all that stuff. Drinking champagne. We'll have an episode out on probably sometime Sunday night. Probably doing our normal thing where we kind of give our long shot, our most likely winner, and maybe just make a bold prediction on the card. And also, I mean, we do have a lot of content coming out because we have a big week in Hong Kong this week. So our friend Caitlin Free is going to join myself and Matt Carlson. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So yeah, we got a lot going on this week, but I man, we'll start talking about this card and talk about maybe one of the one of the I don't know. This is an interesting race. It's a very bad race. This is, I mean, I think Caleb, you said oof when you looked at this race, and I think you made a good point that a lot of these horses since Turfway stopped running haven't really had a place to run. So we're going to start off here with a maiden claimer, 10K here, going a mile and 16th on the dirt main track here. Your morning line favorite is the 7, Cash Me Up at 3-1, Falcon Quest at 7-2, Coal Boss at 4-1, and then you got American Raider, Battleborn, and everybody else over double digits. I mean, I kind of ended on the 7, Cash Me Up in this spot. I mean, the thing that Linda Rice is able to do with these claiming horses from Kentucky is, I mean, she made herself look pretty good over in New York over the summer with these horses, and I think she claimed this one 2 back. Obviously ran it last time out at Turfway and ran pretty well in a maiden claimer 15, obviously dropping down in class. And there are a few class droppers in this race. But, yeah, I just expect this horse to improve second time in Linda's barn. And, she has been, she owns this one. And also, I know that they put in some new rules in Kentucky about these claiming these horses, and I think this is kind of her way of playing nice. I think with the Kentucky folks and keeping these horses here for a little bit. But I don't know. I thought the 7 looked pretty strong in this spot. Finishing third by a neck last time out. But the other horse I was pretty interested in was the 4 Golden Buck here for Jose Castanon. Farron Peterson wasn't not exactly the strongest rider that they had at Turfway Park. Oddly enough, I think she was like net profitable if you bet her on like certain long shots, because I think she got like 2 of them home at like 40-1 or something like that. So it was pretty interesting. But I think this is going to be a horse that's going to want to be forwardly placed. Obviously, first time off of the synthetic. Expect a little bit of improvement based off that. Another one that is dropping in class in this spot. And like, I don't know, there's this 10 horse Falcon Quest. Like, I wasn't like really interested in this one, and I think that the morning line maker made this one pretty short just because this is one that's coming out of maiden special weight. But I don't know, this seemed like kind of like a play against for me. Just didn't really seem like like he'd been competitive at all in those 3 starts. So yeah, I thought at least the 7, when dropped down the main claim 15 was right there, getting another drop here, and then I thought the 4 getting into another easier spot here as well, and maybe getting a chance to be on the lead or show and being inside drawn speed in the spot maybe could surprise at a price. So I got 7 as an A, I got 4 as a B. Mark, where did you land?
Yeah, it was interesting. You gave us the oh, hey, we're gonna cap this sequence for the week, and I opened it up, and this was the first race I saw, and I was like, oh my god, Josh, what are we doing here? This is a tough race. I mean, again, it's bottom of the barrel claimers for Kentucky, or at least for Churchill, and it's really hard to make a case for anybody that you love here. But I think I'm going to play against your 7 Cash Me Up in here. I mean, I understand all the things you're saying, but Linda is really, really good first off the claim. That's kind of her angle. She pulls these out of barns, and they pop and they fire first time out. This horse ran okay at Turfway, but didn't run really huge, and just kind of gave up the lead late. Just looked a little soft, and I don't know. It seems like it's taking another class drop here. Yeah, it's owned by Linda and everything else, but I think the 7 has to take a step forward off from most of his best dirt races. He's only been on three dirt starts, and I think there's others in here that I'm more interested in, and I think the one I'm the most interested in is the 6 horse Faster. This is a horse that's got some speed, and I would imagine ends up on the lead here. And when you start talking about these really cheap horses, find me somebody that can find the front end. And a lot of these horses just don't like to pass other horses. And I just really wonder if Faster, can kind of break on top, get out to the front like he did in that last race, gets quite a bit of class relief off those Turfway levels, or off that last Turfway race. And I wonder if he can just kind of, get out in front, and nobody's going to really want to catch him, chase him down, and pass him. And I guess that was my problem when I looked at this race. I would imagine somebody like Cash Me Up takes a ton of money, but there's a lot of other interesting outsiders here. And I guess the other one I'll mention, and then because I know Caleb will probably mention the other horse I was interested in here, the third one I was really interested in. But the other one I was interested in here was way on the outside, the 10 horse Falcon Quest, who is the horse that's taken the biggest drop in racing. Calumet homebred, and first time in the claiming ranks, but dropping right to the bottom of the claiming ranks. But given his 3 prior starts, that's probably where he belongs. He really hasn't done much running, but a lot of times they find their friends, and they kind of show up and have a much better performance. Before I throw it over to Caleb, though, you missed the other interesting part on your 4 horse there, Golden Buck, Josh, which is the fact that it's trained, owned, and ridden by, I'm assuming, the same family. They all keeping it in the family, on the Castanon family there. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know if Jose is the father of Jesus, or if that's brother, but I'm assuming I'm going to assume they're related. I'm not specific. I'm not super sure.
Caleb.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have anything to add. I'm surprised, given how kind of clueless I felt about this race, how similar we ended up. Because my opinion is kind of a mashup of both Mark and Josh in here. I thought that I would use 3 horses in here if I was going to play this sequence. I was going to use the 4, 6, and 10. All of them have been talked about. My real opinion in here was that I don't want to use the 1 or the 7. The 1 has had a million chances, as has the 2 and 3, and they just don't really seem to win. The 7 was beaten by the 1 last time out, despite kind of looking like a winner turning for home. So I'm not really sure what to think of the 7, especially when his only 2 decent races really came on synthetic. I guess if you go back to a year and a half ago, he had an okay race at Churchill. But for me anyway, that's not a horse I really wanted at a short price. I also thought it was kind of strange that Jose Ortiz is in town and is not riding for Linda Rice. I know Jose's keeping his tack at Churchill for the spring, allegedly. But that just seemed a little bit odd to me. So I kind of downgraded the 7 a little bit off of that. So for me, I really don't like the 10, the horse Jose Ortiz ends up on, but he's such head and shoulders better than most other jockeys in this race. I probably won't let him beat me on that horse, taking a big drop. But I do think the 4 and the 6 are the 2 horses who are going to be prices that are most interesting. Both are lightly raced. Both have some positives about them. They both have early speed. And I think there's things to like in angles for improvement, both making second start off the layoff, 3-year-olds against older, getting a weight break in here. They haven't proven to me that they suck. So, yeah, I mean, to me, I thought those were both if you're going to take a price horse, I thought those were the right 2 that you guys both covered.
All right. Let's move on to. I thought that this was a pretty interesting race here, race 7, mile 16th on the turf. Obviously, Churchill has definitely had its issues with this turf course, and it seems like they are definitely taking a cautious approach to this turf course, because I think there's only 2 turf races carded for the opening day card here with 10 races, but. We'll be going mile 16th here. Obviously, this is an oversubscribed race. We got 4 AEs and an MTO in this field. Caleb, where did you land here?
So you mentioned this race is oversubscribed, and I'm hoping we get some scratch help, because basically all the horses I liked are currently on the also eligible list.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I kind of got there is when I looked at this race, it felt to me like there was quite a bit of speed. Yeah, I thought a horse like the number 2, Taituba, of all the speed horses in the race, that's the one I would want the most. And I do kind of like her in here. But she is going to have to deal with some pace pressure from the number 3, La Pachanga, as well as number 5, Dreaming of Mo. Stephanie's Charm has been involved a couple of times. So this race has a potential to get kind of spicy. So I was looking for a closer, and I am absolutely not going to bet the number 4, Ola Gata, in this race, the 1 for 8. A Chad Brown horse that can't seem to figure out how to put her head down first, even though she is probably the best closer in the race. I cannot use that horse. So the horses that I actually liked were the number 13 and 14, Johanny and Calispera, neither of which are going to be long prices should they draw in, but should be more than fair. I probably prefer Calispera a touch. She was keeping much better company when racing overseas at the Cara and the Longchamp. But then she came over to Gulfstream, won a race, washed off the turf, was heavily bet in both starts. And given her run style, especially going 7.5 at Gulfstream, it's a tough ask. It's not a track that's conducive to deep closing moves, especially when you're drawn wide going 7.5 furlongs. So I just think it was a bad setup for her. She probably isn't a legitimate, like grade 1, grade 2 kind of horse, I don't think. But this feels like a very realistic spot for a horse that was competing in group 2s and group 3s as a maiden. So I think she's probably the one I want the most of. Number 13, Johanny's the other, whose figures are probably a little bit quicker on time form, but is one here who I think has a nice closing kick. You get Tyler Gaffleyon up for Brendan Walsh. They were having a very nice Keeneland meet last I checked. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I know they were doing quite well together. And it just seems to me like this is a horse that really fits this race pretty well. Was able to close at Gulfstream 2 back. Seems to be moving forward a little bit in here. Needs to save a little bit of ground. They both do, but given their run style, I'm not super worried about that. So for me, the 13 and 14 are actually my top picks. And I will be using the 2 Taituba, depending on, who scratches in and what I can get away with.
Yeah, I'll keep it pretty short, sweet, and to the point. Caleb mentioned the 2 Tatuba. I saw Luis Saez with controlling turf speed, and I just kind of singled the horse. I realize there's a fast pace in here. That's the one thing that does work against her. If she can't get out and get settled, and she does have that pace pressure from some of the horses you mentioned, like the 3. But I realize also the horse is no win machine, 1 for 11 lifetime. This field is just really, really, really tough. I had a really hard time with it. Caleb mentioned 2 of the also eligibles that I liked. I'm going to almost bet that Josh will mention the 3rd also eligible I liked. So, yeah, I think I just kind of singled Tatuba and moved along.
There are so many speed horses in this race. I couldn't pick just one, so I picked none of them.
I thought Chris had picked them all for sure.
I was waiting for it. I was like, okay, he picked all the speeds.
This is like, and this is once again, this is absolutely, look at Uncle Sully calling out, what the bloody hell? Josh is marking S4 horses as A's, and Caleb is on the E8 horse. What in the wild, wild world of horse racing is going on here? Mark, please be the voice of reason. And what does Mark do? He takes the E8 horse.
I took the E8.
Goodness gracious. So I really like the two also eligibles, the 14. I think if the 14 draws in, he's probably going to be your favorite. I really like the 14. I want nothing to do with this 4 horse. I mean, I feel like Caleb is just something happened to Caleb. He's just way too nice, because this is just an absolute fake ass Chad Brown horse. I mean, this is a horse that broke its maiden at Kentucky Downs, which Chad almost never sends horses to. So I mean, I can't get on board. If this horse wins, if this horse beats me, like it beats me, like whatever. I'm not gonna,
I would say I'll commence with putting that horse right in the winner's circle. That's probably the fakest Chad I've ever seen. That horse like screams hang. So and it's going to take a lot of money because of the connections. And I mean, it really that horse screams like a horse that Chad went, okay, this horse is with us at Keeneland, but isn't quite good enough to run in the Keeneland race. And maybe I don't want to give her up for a tag, because she's probably worth something, as a broodmare prospect. So let's try to find a softer spot where I don't have to ship her that far. Like, that's what it felt like.
Yeah. So the 12 Spartan Queen, obviously the first one of the first horses on the AE list. I was just like you, Caleb. I'm looking for horses coming from off the pace, and I think if you look at this horse, and maybe I'm getting a little like way too out there, but you cross out all the races that this horse has gone at fairgrounds, and you look at only the Churchill Downs races. I mean, this horse fits, right? And not necessarily horse for course, right? Because he's only got 2 starts there, but he's got a first and a second there. The 2 best speed figures on Briz, both coming from that race, both kind of pressing fairly fast paces and finishing well in both those. So I think that the 12 is probably, I mean, 12-1 is just an insane price, I think, on this horse. I think is going to get a really, really nice trip if all the speed stays in. Obviously, this changes, right? If 2 of the scratches are the speed horses, then I think you take the E8 that's left over from them. But with 3 of them in here, I definitely think that there's going to be a fair amount of speed. And then you get Raylu on another horse that's shown some speed, and Raylu's definitely not afraid to send. So I definitely think you want one coming from off the pace. Of the horses that are drawn in, I did land on one as kind of a B type, and that's the 8 horse Haystack here. And once again, this is one that I'm kind of going back and I'm looking at that Churchill Downs race. I obviously set close to the pace, and I thought it had a nice little race there. But yeah, if you look at some of these races, I think that this is another one that is not afraid to kind of sit up close to the pace. And not be just completely out of it and be a dead closer. So I think this is more of like a first run type horse. I think the last race at Turfway Park, I mean, basically made a bit of a winning move and then just kind of got nailed late. And yeah, I just think that this is another one that has shown a little bit of ability here running on this Churchill Downs turf course. So, I'm kind of like just looking for a horse coming off the pace that isn't the Chad Brown rat, and I kind of landed on the 8 here, Haystack, as a B. But I think if either the 12 or the 14 draw in, I mean they're almost close to just being singleable. I think because I think that they're head and shoulders better than everybody except for the 4. But I'm not putting any money behind that 4.
So Josh, I'm shocked that you don't have this 11 anywhere.
The 11 horse?
Yeah.
Well, with Gerardo aboard?
Yeah, I mean, Gerardo's aboard. And then
he's probably not going to be aboard because I think he broke his back.
Yeah,
did he break his back? Is that what it was? Yeah, I knew he got trampled. I didn't know what it officially was. But no, I actually thought the 11 was a little bit interesting, just at a bit of a price with some sneaky angles. Gerardo was set to take them out. Horse broke its maiden 2-back at Turfway in a pretty darn nice race, and then comes back and had a ton of trouble in that Keeneland race last out. But wasn't disgraced. I mean, yeah, it was fifth, but only by 3 3/4. And I think this is much easier company than what that Keeneland race was. And you know, a lot of these horses have shown that they just don't really like to win, and this is a little bit more the lightly raced horse. You know, getting into you know, a barn that you know seems to seems to have them sorted out. They got the maiden break out of the way, and it wouldn't be really surprise me if this one takes another step forward here and gets it done. So I you know, that you know, the figure that came back, I realized it was in a losing effort, but that figure that came back out of the Keeneland race makes him a player here at a bit of a price as well. So I thought Catmint was a little interesting.
I looked at him for a long time, or her at a long time rather, but what kind of tripped me up a little bit is I don't know if she can actually really pass horses. I mean, she's passed essentially one horse in
her entire
4 races. So it's like, I mean, I don't think she's a need to lead because she's never made the lead, but is she a horse that just likes to run around with her buddies? And I couldn't really figure that one out. So you should get a fair enough price to maybe take the gamble there. And the figure did come back pretty decent. But that was kind of my hang up, is to kind of, is she a B? Is she a toss? Or what do I do with her? And I wasn't quite sure.
I had the same exact concern, Caleb. I mean, but you know, my thought was you're probably going to get at least morning line, if not a little better. So if I'm going to get 15 to 1 of that kind of horse, I'm okay taking that shot.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I guess to kind of Josh's point, if there are scratches, you kind of have to reassess this race. If there aren't, I feel like I need to at least give one horse that's going to actually run the race. And the only other closer I could find I sort of liked, like I did look at Josh's 8 a little bit, but I sort of had a bit of a tougher time sticking with him, as he just, or her, kind of keep screwing that one up. She just seems to lose ground in the stretch every time. I just wonder if she has some distance issues here. A horse that certainly won't have distance issues that is going to be closing is the number 10, Robin Sage. This horse might just not be this good. She might need more ground. I'm not really sure. But, you know, she made a big run at Kentucky Downs to get a nice win. And then she's had a couple of nice closing efforts in a few of her last starts. I don't know what happened to Keeneland. She clearly just didn't really handle the track all that well. Just didn't show up with her, you know, best effort that day. But, yeah, I'm almost wondering maybe these marathon races really aren't where she's best. I mean, if you look further down her form, she's used to have early speed, and she's actually had some races where she hit the front in the stretch and then kind of lost some ground. So I'm not completely convinced that she's a marathon specialist. She needs to get faster to win this race, but she's 20 to 1, and she's essentially the only closer I could find that I thought sort of fits the pace setup here and fits this race, besides the Chad Brown horse, who we're all not going to use. So she's one I would kind of make a case for it. Should be a big price.
Yeah, to answer Uncle Sully's point about what happens if this gets taken off, and you know, there's a little water in the ground if we get some rain. I'm actually going to go back to the choice I made if it stays on the turf, and that's the 2. You know, I always like horses that are forwardly placed in the wet, and Tituba has a really nice second place effort and an allowance at Churchill on an off track. I didn't realize it was rated fast that day, but you know, she seemed to handle it pretty well. I don't know how wet it was, but I think she's a usable horse. She's shown that she's okay on the dirt, and I think she had one of the faster time form figs on a on the dirt in the entire field. So, and I realize some of these you're guessing a little because they don't really have the starts. But I think I'd probably stay with Tituba as my top pick if it's off the turf.
Yeah, I think there is an MTO in here.
I didn't love the MTO though.
Mystic Pleasure. Yeah, this is an interesting one, right? Because yeah, I mean, Good Magic. Good Magic. We haven't seen too many, I think, route yet. But and this horse obviously hasn't gone longer than 6.5. But you would think would have a little bit of ability, seeing as Good Magic's by Curlin, yeah. Giacomo on the bottom, which you don't really see much. But yeah, I don't know. I thought that, you know, if Saez gets on that one though, and gets off the other speed horse, maybe that's a signal. But
Yeah, no, I do like the size up factor. My issue with the 15 was if it does come up a sloppy or a wet track, that the Tomlinson figures are really not good on the 15. And also it's one of those out of the Brad Cox barn into the Brissett barn. That's quite a that's quite a step down in the world of things. So horse has some speed though, so would be forwardly placed if they draw in. It's just a matter of how wet the track comes up. I don't know. It's a horse that's going to take a ton of money if it comes off, and it's just the kind of horse I would probably let beat me if they do.
I don't think you can really answer that question until you know who's in. I mean, there's a ton of speed in the race, and that the 15 figures to be part of it if he stays in. So, I mean, I have no idea. I mean, I can't really answer that.
Cool. Let's move on. This is another, just a fun, interesting race because we're going 1.25 miles, same distance as the Derby here for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. Maiden 120K, a little bit less money than they're gonna get for running the Derby. But I know that we always make fun of the marathon division because you get some kind of bad horses and just because they're like last resorts. But I don't know, you get some like really interesting pedigrees, right? That we maybe don't get to see, run as much. You get like these old Curlins and other horses that get to run all day, which they don't get to do very often. So I always like seeing a race or two like this on a card, just to kind of mix things up here. But yeah, we got 11 horses drawn for this one. Your morning line favorite is the 1, Just Basking at 3-1, Mystical Chant at 7-2, Foreseen at 9-2, and then you're starting to get some longer prices. Ava's Looks also at 5-1. Mark, where did you land here?
Okay, so first off, were you just implying 1.25 miles is a marathon? Because I'm a little concerned.
I think for 3-year-old fillies and mares, it absolutely is a marathon.
If that's what you're trying to make, I got you. Then.
But I mean, the thing is that 1.25 miles even doesn't get run that much, right? It feels like 1.1 miles is kind of where we stop, and part of that is because of the way the tracks are done. Like not every track can do 1.25 miles, but I feel like the races are getting shorter and shorter. I mean, if they weren't, why are we using that stupid chute in Saratoga?
Oh no, I agree with you. I agree with that. Yeah. Again, if you're saying that for a maiden race, sure. I mean, I didn't do anything really super creative here. I thought I needed 2 horses to get through this leg, and that was it. First off is the 1 horse, Just Baskin. Pedigree says the stretch out should be great. Arrogate had no problem getting 1.25 miles and boomed the hell out of me at Saratoga on Traverse Day. And I will bring that back every time I see an Arrogate, baby. And sure, why not here? Wow, is that a new audio?
Nice.
Well done. I like it. Yeah, so I thought Just Baskin was super interesting here. Pedigree says that the stretch out should help. If you look at the last 2 efforts, it seems like more of the grinder type. I mean, I realize a little more closery, grindery, whatever you call it style. Yeah, I think the stretch out should probably help this one. The other horse I was interested in was the 5, Mystical Chant, who is I realized by Liam's map, not a pedigree. You think. I don't know if necessarily this is the best distance, but I think oftentimes you find with these, especially these maiden races, going a further distance, the reason horses are in these fields is because they don't have that tactical speed. They're a little one-dimensional. They're a bit of a plotter. And this is kind of the speed of those horses. And if you get into a situation where Mystical Chant kind of gets the front end, Jose Ortiz is very, very good at slowing these races down and kind of conserving a horse and getting him the distance. So can he go to the front end in this race, slow it down, settle everybody behind him, and just have enough horse late to kind of grind his way home? So I thought those were the 2 horses I was most interested in here. And honestly, they're the only 2 that I had marked down. So keep it nice and simple because I want coverage in the next race. Foreshadowing. There it is.
Oh, what's funny is I kept this race quickly without morning lines, and all I could really think is I really want to be against that 3, even though it is an E8. I mean, Liam's map going longer than a mile. Oh yeah, sorry, the 5. Sorry, but Mystical Chant, I just was like not very interested in, I ended up on 2 horses. I think the one, like I think you said it best, Mark. This looks like a horse that's, they put a little bit of distance under him, and all of a sudden, hey, he ran way better. And now they're adding even more distance for that pedigree. So I think that is that's going to be good. I think for the one just basking. But the other horse I did like is the 8 Queen of the Rodeo. Similar, right? And it's not, it's a Curlin on top, Bernardini on the bottom, so we do have some distance pedigree there. And obviously this is one that has been off for a year. I ran okay for her first start. Does have the barn switch, gets the Axeman aboard, who's rode lights out at Turfway Park. I don't think he did all that well at Keeneland, but I think that horse has got a couple of decent works under him, under her. So, and I think the fact that this is a 4-year-old going against a lot of 3-year-olds, when you're talking about going a longer distance, that the age does help, especially in these maidens. Whenever you see, especially like turf marathon or turf races that are going long, and you see 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds in against 3-year-olds, my eyes often go to that. So I thought this 8 being a 4-year-old with that pedigree, I thought has definitely got a little bit of a leg up here on the rest of the group. So I have it as a B, but I'm just going to be single A to the 1 here. Caleb?
Yeah, so I'm with you on the 1. That's kind of the horse I view as most likely winner in here. It is, and this is maybe just more personal bias, but it's always tough. So I love this horse in her last race at Keeneland. I thought she was against the bias and against the flow of the race at Turfway. Had a huge gallop out. I was in a contest that day. I was all on the 1 here at 38-1. And it's one of those things that makes it tough to come back and better at 3-1 next time out, especially on the stretch out where by all rights, the way that she runs and the way that she finished off that race, she should like it. But you never really know how they're going to respond. The 3rd career starts, a 3-year-old filly going 10 panels. That's a big ask. And I guess that's my concern. I still think she's my likeliest winner, but I am a little concerned about that. That's also part of the reason why I did not kind of go for your 8. I also am a disciple of the older horses going long kind of angle, especially against 3-year-olds. But coming off a year layoff, going a mile and a quarter just feels like a lot to ask of this horse for a guy in Pavel Matejka, who doesn't typically do very well off layoffs in the first place. So the horse needs to really show up. And in a spot like this, I think that's just asking a lot. So for me, I really kind of ended up on the 1. It's kind of the only horse I was genuinely interested in. And then I toured around with the idea of using the 5. The 4 and the 5 seem like the 2 speeds in here. The 5 is a 5-year-old mare, probably doesn't have a ton of upside left. The 4. The 5 here, Mystical Chant. I mean, only 3, but has definitely shown some stamina issues and feels like this is quite possibly a little too far. But you do get Jose Ortiz aboard, so I couldn't really decide what to do with them. In all likelihood, I probably just won't use either, and I'll just single the 1. But those are the other 2 horses I was trying to figure out. Like, well, if the 1 is coming from just way too far back, who can kind of steal it on the front end? And it looks like it's the 4 or the 5, unless you really get creative and try to argue for the 7. But in my mind, it's probably just a 1.
Yeah, I looked long and hard. I looked long and hard at your 8 there, Josh, and I didn't quite know what to do with that horse. I mean, they paid $575K for this horse. It's a Curlin, Bernardini on the bottom, kind of all the things you want, and then the long layoff. And moving from the Ben Colebrook barn to somebody I've never heard of's barn, it just kind of screamed to me like, isn't this like something went wrong and we don't know what to do with this horse? And I don't know. It just felt super sus, but sometimes those horses win. So I can understand why you thought the horse was interesting, but it just something felt wrong there to me. I'll try to put the horse in the winner's circle for you,
Hey, I appreciate it because I feel like I'm going to need a price in here. Race 9, we got a stakes race, overnight stakes, 200K. And we're going to be going 6 furlongs here for fillies and mares. And I thought this was another race that you kind of had to decide what you thought was going to happen with the pace. I mean, this is Churchill Downs. This is 6 furlongs, right? So maybe you're not as worried, but I don't know. At least on Brisnet, this looks like you got a lot of horses that have definitely shown some good speed, and even some horses like for example this 2 Last Leaf, you know, is got an S designation. But I mean, last time out they went 22 and 45 and 1 at Laurel, and this horse was only 3 lengths off the lead when they went that fast. So, you know, I think that even this horse, you know, isn't necessarily gonna just, you know, sit back like really really far. So I do think you have a bit of speed in here. I kind of took the best of the speeds, I thought, which is the 3 Speedy Traveler here. You know, Phil Bauer and Jaime Torres, you know, hooking up here. Jaime Torres, I mean, he's only got one way to go. This horse is only shown one way to go, and I think this is going to be your inside drawn speed. I mean, the one Happy as I Am is fast, is very fast as well, but I don't know. I mean, I know Matthew the other day said when Johnny V's on a speed horse, it seems like other people take back. But I mean, I don't necessarily think that Jaime Torres has got that kind of nuance in his riding skill that he's going to pull back with this horse. So I don't know. I think the 3 is still ends up on the lead. And if this does get real stupid on the front end, I think this does set up for one of the P types. And I got 2 of them here. I got the 5 Zeitlos here, who's another short price. But this is a horse that has been running in stakes company, listed stakes company, has got a listed stakes win at Oaklawn Park. You know, if you look back to this horse's PPs, I mean, you see some fast paces, and you see this one sitting off and closing in pretty nicely. I mean, heck, this horse even almost won a race at Kentucky Downs. He actually took the lead and finished second. But yeah, I thought that this is going to be a horse that's going to be probably get the first run on any speed that gets tiring. And I mean, if you really hate yourself and hate money, I would also include this 4 Postiano Sunset. I mean, Julian Leperoux does nothing but burn money for me. But you know, and Ian Wilkes, I mean, the connections don't exactly you know, just, you know, strike fear in the heart of anybody. But this is a horse that's got a stakes win here in Kentucky last time out. Has been on the bench for a little bit, but I think this is another one that, you know, if it goes ahead and is able to find that fast pace, I think that this one's last race is probably good enough to win here, and is a pretty decent price. So I'm going to use a 3, 4, and 5 in here. I got the 3 and 5 as A's and the 4 as a B. Caleb, you were like rubbing your face, and I don't know if it's because I talked about Julian Leperoux for more than 30 seconds, but
No.
where did you land here?
Similar. I do think you're right with the fact that I think the race starts with trying to figure out the pace. I think it's going to be very swift, and on a fair racetrack without any riding jockey shenanigans, I don't think someone wires this race. I thought that the 1 Johnny V from the inside post almost has to go. Can't imagine that Jaime Torres are going to rate that horse. And then you also have horses like Dazzling Blue, who, passed like 2 horses last out while getting beat by 13 lengths. Has never won a race off the pace. Don't know if the horse can go to the front, but certainly is going to be involved in the pace. So I thought this race was going to be swift. So I was looking for off the pace runners. I do like your 4 Positano Sunset. Not my top selection, but definitely one that if you can just argue maybe just hates Gulfstream. You could say the grade 2, grade 3, but I don't think it's a LASIX thing, clearly. I don't know if the class was that big of a difference compared to what she's been facing, but she beat Vava 2 back, who's a nice filly. So I think if you can just maybe ignore those Gulfstream races, when this horse is in Kentucky, she's quite good. So I'm with you there. Zeitlos, I think, makes a lot of sense. I'm personally a little bit biased against some of these Oaklawn horses. I don't know what the stats are, but it just sort of feels like they haven't shown up all that well at Keeneland. And the figures seem just to come back a little faster than I feel like they should. So I'm not aggressively against his 8 lows, but that last race was not great as the pretty heavy favorite. So she's one I'm kind of on the fence about. I could talk about everybody in here, but my top pick actually is the number 8 Condensation. So given how I see this pace being pretty swift, this is a horse that really is probably your most legitimate closer in the field, in my opinion. The horse that really is going to make one big run. If you go back to the September 23rd race at Churchill, put a really nice race together. This filly actually loves Churchill. She has 3 wins out of 4 starts. And the one loss was on the Derby undercard in the 8 bells, going 7 furlongs, which might be just a touch longer than she wants to go. She cuts back to 6 here, which I think is a great fit for her. And yeah, some of the last races maybe don't look amazing, but that Mahoning Valley race, I mean, she ran okay, and it was a surprisingly salty stakes race. She did fine going a turf route, which is clearly not her game. And then she caught a sloppy track last time at Oaklawn and just kind of couldn't quite make up ground on Alva Star, who's been really quite sharp. She came back to win one of the big Keeneland races, I think, beating Vava in what's the big the Madison maybe or the Ashland, one of those two, I forget, but came back to run a big race. So no shame in that. I think Condensation is your most proven closer. You get Jose Ortiz aboard. I think there's just a lot of things to like there.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you guys. I think this is a hot pace. I did take a pretty long, hard look at the 4 Positano Sunset, who Josh mentioned, because any horse that can win with Julian Leperoux and Chris Linderos up at one point in its career, got to be talented. I mean, there has to be some legitimate talent there. But I honestly do think, I think there's a lot of pace. I think the 1's got to go, the 3's got to go. Sometimes even if there's a stupid pace, these 6 furlong races do hold together, but this kind of looks like on paper it does have to come apart. I think some of the speeds are interesting, but my top choice was actually the 9 Socially Selective for Belmont. This is a horse that those last 2 races fit very well figures wise with this field. Seems like they finally figured, she's kind of put it together as a 4-year-old. And she's a horse that I think can be tactical. She's shown that she can pass other horses. I think she can sit just kind of off from that, those speed horses, there's probably 3 or so that have to go. And she can kind of get first run on them if this does kind of melt down. And the Belmont barn has absolutely been firing. If you've been watching Keeneland, his barn, he's been very, very live. But Belmont's never been a high percentage barn. But Geniel Alvarado Belmont combo has been very, very good at Keeneland. I think they're like 24 or 25% hitting something like that. I think this is just a horse that, obviously getting back to getting a class test here. I just think this might kind of trip out in this field. So Socially Selective was my top pick in here.
Yeah, that's one I did like too, Mark. She really hasn't run all that fast, but certainly hasn't done much wrong.
No.
What I found interesting with her is that, A, she gets bit off the board every start. And B, at least according to Timeform, they have her running in a ton of slow paces. And I just wondered a little, is it kind of, rather, is she maybe just kind of the horse that is sitting on these very slow paces and then just able to comfortably take home and draw off? Because her late pace figures are quite good for a speed horse, or what's generally more of a speed horse than a closer anyway. So this race, they're not going 46 and 1 to the half. I would estimate this is going to be closer to 45 flat, maybe 45 and 1. It might be sub 45. So I just wonder what kind of trip is she going to have and how much energy is she going to have left after stalking within a length or 2 of that type of a pace. But at 6 to 1, I think that's sort of baked into the price. So I'm not against her at all. It's just something I was trying to think about as I was handicapping the race.
Yeah, I understand that. And my kind of thought with her is she seems to be a very different horse after the long layoff. Now, she was off from April of 23 till January of 2024. And when she came back, she seemed to have taken a massive step forward. You kind of wonder with her, maybe we haven't seen the best of her stuff. But I do agree with you. Did she just happen to have a couple of odd pace complexion type races? But this is the kind of race that I think I have 7 potential horses I could use on something like a pick 5 in this race. You can definitely take your spots in here. You could definitely go price fishing and you see how, I mean, again, watch the tracks, see how the track's playing. If speed, I've seen these opening, at Churchill where speed is just phenomenal and things don't come apart. Well, if they don't come apart, then maybe you want to lean more towards something like the 1 and the 3. If the track's playing fair, I think that you look for some of the closers, more a 4, a 9, Caleb's 8. I think those are all, very interesting players, with a little more fair track.
Yeah, speed's always dangerous at Churchill Downs,
Yep.
right? So you got to respect it still, but yeah, and I think that's kind of why I ended up with that kind of like two pronged pick there. All right, race 10, maiden claimer 50,000. We're gonna see how we're gonna get paid here. If we're gonna get paid, I mean, I don't know. I have a feeling that there's a good chance I'm dead leg 1 because some 90-1 impossible horse wins that that battle of wills that is a maiden claimer 10,000 at Churchill. But we're gonna be going 6 furlongs here for fillies and mares. And your morning line favorite is going to be the 3 Star Court at 4-1, Tammy's Cruiser at 9-2, Ruby at 5-1. I mean, this is a pretty flat board when the morning line favorites at 4-1. You got a couple at 8-1 in Galadini, Green Fairy, and Corey Felice, and everyone else is at double digits. Mark, tell me, how are we going to make money in this race?
I think in this sequence, I hope you've already made your money. You got your prices in a couple of legs prior, because I think this, I know you have one of them marked down, but I think that this race really goes through 2 horses. There's a couple other outsiders I could be interested in, but I think either Star Court or Tammy's Cruiser are kind of your most interesting, most likely winners. Star Court, you can make an argument that that last one was, I don't know, kind of a prep for this race. Pedigree does not, to me at least, scream a horse that's going to love the synthetic going. And you're getting Cher DeVoe, whose barn has been very good the past, let's say, month or so, putting her, top jock on there, and she tends to go to Louis when she's got a real live one. And she's 13% on the drop and 21% with maiden second timers. So I wonder if that last start was, she's not a fire first time out trainer. Normally her starters are much better second or third start. So I really wonder if that last out was just a get a race into this one, see what we got, and then point towards a better spot. And so kind of seems like a major player in this race, and has enough pace in here. I don't see any crazy pace scenarios in here, and I could actually see an argument that Star Court may actually end up on the lead if that's what Saez wants to do. Seems to have enough speed where they could do that. I think a lot of options there, and he can kind of choose his own path. And again, if they're not cranking, which I don't think that they will be on the front end, might just be able to inherit a lead and get super brave. The other horse I liked was Tammy's Cruiser, who you're getting Michael McCarthy first time for the drop. With Flo ended up here, a horse that needs to improve off other some of the prior races, but I think that last race was a pretty decent effort. Hopefully they've kind of figured out what this one wants to do. I think that those synth starts were nothing to write home about. And kind of the other horse that I thought could take another step forward with a little bit of softer company. And if there is a little more pace in here than I thought initially, maybe this is one that comes apart and falls into her lap.
Caleb.
Yeah, when Mark and I see the race pretty similar, that means I shouldn't play the sequence. If I was going to pick your 2 likeliest winners, it would be the 3 and the 4. They're both dropping, which means something, I suppose. But like 80% of this field is dropping, so it probably means less to me than it would in a different scenario. It's high powered barns, it's high powered jockeys in a race that is really hungry for talent. I'm not sure that I'm totally behind, like this was a previous race was a prep necessarily to drop this horse in for a tag here, but the horse Cherie DeVoe does get better with racing, as does Mike McCarthy. But they're both trainers who don't typically win first time out, so these horses have a right to improve with experience and improve with some class relief. I will say from a pace perspective, I don't know who gets the lead here, but I don't think it's going to be a very fast pace. So I could certainly see somebody stealing this race. And the 3 and the 4 are definitely not confirmed front runners. Sias can sometimes get very aggressive on these kind of mounts and try to steal one. I don't think Flo is going to be able to do that, even if he tried. So I do want to look at some of the speed horses in here. And the one that kind of caught my eye was the number 10, Argan. This is a horse that went just ballistically fast in that Keeneland race where he was pretty much done by the second call. 3 races back at Turfway, he kind of did the same thing, going way too fast for Turfway Park against Maiden Special Weight Company, and really dug in, just getting beat essentially 2 lengths there in a big 12 horse field. So I do like this horse. That middle race at Turfway, not great. The number Fig Gap came back quite a bit slower on time form, and also did have a more tepid pace that day relative to the races that sandwich around it. But I'm wondering if this might just be a horse that doesn't want to go this far. Whether he gets a hot pace or a quick pace, she just doesn't seem to really have that extra gear that gets her to dig in and hold on in here. So I like her on the cutback. I like the class relief, which has a bunch of positives for Fausto Gutierrez, and one in here at 6-1. Maybe gets lost a bit on the board. These aren't big Kentucky connections necessarily, and that last race is going to probably scare some people off. But one that I think big speed on a cutback, always dangerous. So without any confirmed front runners, that's one I would take a look at.
Yeah, I landed on 3 horses in this spot. Obviously, the 3 Star Court, Mark already mentioned. You get Luis Saez aboard here. This is a horse that's been working really well at Turfway Park. Didn't really do much running last time out, but you're getting the switch from synthetic. Some horses just don't take to that. Sherry DeVoe, all of the stats for this type of move for her second career race, maiden claiming, first time maiden claiming, these all are plus moves for her. So I thought that this horse on the drop of the real big droppers and short prices, I thought that was one that made the most sense. Obviously, is your morning line favorite, but the one Green Fairy is another one of the droppers, and you're getting a little bit better of a price here. I guess I'm a little curious why they have this one on the dirt, since Jimmy Creed, at least in my head, is more of a turf pedigree. But this is another move for Greg Foley that's very positive. Off the layoff, maiden claiming, both positive moves. And obviously this is a lightly raced horse that's been working here at Churchill Downs. So yeah, I definitely thought that this was I thought this was a horse that it can definitely improve here second time. And I mean, you kind of look that this horse had that one start at Churchill Downs. Maybe these connections only want to run at Churchill Downs. They want to see their horse run. So maybe that, this is just kind of maybe the Mark's well-meant angle, right? And the horses, owners are pointing to this meet. Why not win one on opening day here? And then the other horse I use is the 5 Galladini. And Caleb, I think you were kind of talking about this a little bit, how, hey, like, maybe one of these horses that get on the front are going to go and they're just going to win. And I thought Galladini is kind of the probably the most inside drawn horse that has shown a little bit of speed. Obviously that 5.5 at Fairgrounds, was second by a head, got the lead at second call. So does have a bit of early speed, able to get the lead going 5.5. So going 6 here at Churchill Downs, I thought it made sense. The horse kind of just ran even the 4 starts. I mean, they didn't really know what to do. And they 5.5, then they went a mile, then they did a mile and 16th on the turf. And I mean, it's Bernardini, which is never going to be a turf horse. And then they cut the horse back, and it seemed like the horse liked the cut back to the 6 furlongs, and obviously the drop in class. Coming back here is coming up in class, but once again, this is another trainer angle that just looks great. I mean, Chris Hartman is 38% when moving up a class. And first off the claim is 27%. He's done very well with these horses from fairgrounds. Gets Mitchell Merle aboard, who knows how to get a horse out of the gate and get on the front end. So I thought of the speed horses, the 5 kind of made the most sense for me. So I'm going to be 1, 3, and 5 here in this last race.
I did like the 5 a little bit, Josh. To your point, that's the other speed horse. If not the 10, the 5's the other horse. I think probably goes to the lead. Is one of the few horses in here that's moving up in class, not down. But Hartman does have strong moves, percentage move with that exact angle. So yeah, one that I could see in here as well.
Yeah, Hartman's also really good first off the claim. I had the 5 written down as a B for me as well.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, we're gonna have a ton of stuff to talk about next week. I mean, goodness, and we got Big Mark for some reason.
Yeah,
but and we're gonna have a ton of stuff to talk about next week. Obviously, we got Oaks Day, we got Derby Day. I will be on track for Thurby, so I will probably get some videos and stuff posted up. And yeah, we're gonna maybe try and pump out some shorts and some other stuff over the next week. Really get kind of pumped up here for Derby week. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure I'll be much more excited next week. But I mean, I don't have a Derby horse, Caleb. I don't have a Derby horse, and like I did see our friend Emily post earlier this week that she knows she's late to the party, but she finally has her Derby horse. But I'm like, I have no clue. I mean, like, I'm looking at horses like Track Phantom and Dornock, and I'm like, really? Like, Josh, you're really going to go there? Like, no, you're not going to go there. And and now everyone's all over Honor Marie after that workout today.
And I was on her before the workout, and now I'm so upset because she's going to be...
now you're the wise guy.
Yeah, I know.
You're the
now
wise guy.
Now everyone's going to be on this horse, and she's going to be 12-1 or something terrible.
Oh, what a nerd!
But honestly, to me, this feels like the year of the Derby that you just want to be right. Like, I mean, you always want to be right, but there's times like Always Dreaming year or whatever that okay, you can be right, but you have reasons not to like a horse. The Authentic year, okay, I just didn't like the horse. Like, this feels like the year that no one's going to be so short that. If you think it's Fearness and Sierra Leone, just take them and move on. If you think it's someone else, then regardless of the price, I think you just want to be right this year because you're going to get paid.
Yeah, so our friend Ryan Dickey, he's very he's not playing much anymore, but he's got this. I don't want to call it a system, like, 'cause it's not a system, but for some, he likes to do this for the Derby. He does a pick for the Derby, and I forget he told me before like the exact like parameters for this pick 4, but all I remember is in the pick 4 he needs one single, so he goes single in one leg of the one of the 3 races before the Derby, and then he hits all in the Derby. And I think he said he's like 3 by 3 by 1 by all. Right, because he told me the whole thing, but I'll have to ask him what the exact thing is, and obviously, right, like you don't want to go in with a like a set wager, like, hey, I'm going to play this wager this way, right? Because shit happens, but like it's funny because like you think of like the Rich Strike year, right? I mean, yeah, like it's a total crapshoot, but if he fucking had all in that race, right, and he hits his single. Right. I mean, he's just got to get 2 horses. He's just got to get 2 races right. And like the thing's paying boxcars. I think in an inefficient pool that the Derby ends up being one of the few inefficient pools, I think, of the year. I think there's always room for that chaos ticket. But yeah, I mean, even this year, like, honestly, I think like, what do you think Fierceness is going to end up your favorite? What do you think Fierceness goes off at? 4-1?
I was going to say 7-2 ballpark. I think Fierceness and Sierra Leone will be 7-2, 5-1 ish. Something like that.
Yeah, but yeah, it'll be interesting. But we'll have way more content next week. We'll have a much better idea what's going on. Obviously, Mark had to step away for something, but if you're in the Discord, hit him up. I think the group ticket is happening, and you better believe that Mark is not going to hit on a group ticket without Caleb and I being a part of it. Even if it's only for like 0.5%, I'm going to make sure I have at least a little bit of action. Because Caleb, how much action did you have in the group ticket I hit?
0.
Yep. So
Never again.
yeah, but yeah, that's going to do it for us here on thewronglead.com at wrong_lead. Mark is back with his beautiful bald head. Obviously, like I said, we'll have video, we'll have shorts up, we'll have the 2 live streams next week. You got Drank and Champagne coming out. You got to be shot-tanning me. I'll have some live coverage from some random locals party that's going to have a DJ and a live band and Thurby. I'll be on track for Thurby in a box. So have a good week, guys. Let's make some money.